He told police she approached him for a sexual encounter, but he began to feel, quote, suspicious.
I'm thinking he thought it was a girl. It's like, oh man,
Yeah.
she just said if I want to get sucked off,
Yeah.
man, this must be my lucky day.
Yeah.
Starts getting sucked off. He's like, wait a minute.
That should be a red flag somewhere.
Them hands.
This is Savannah Ryan Williams, a transgendered woman, and she has asked Darian Bible if he wanted to have sex. Now, Savannah seems to be a prostitute with a long criminal history. For instance, at the time of her death, she was currently listed as a fugitive from justice on robbery charges. Now, one thing I found very interesting is that on the Minnesota Department of Corrections website, where they house all this information, this woman has been dead for about 2 months now, and they still have her information. Matter of fact, she's listed as a wanted fugitive on this webpage. So I think they need to update their list just to make it a little bit more current. So on November 29th, she meets this guy, and this is what happens.
On November 29th, Minneapolis police responded to an early morning shots fired call near 4th Avenue South and Lake Street. Court documents say 25-year-old Demarion Kalon Bible admitted to shooting Williams in the head.
Now, the strange part about this whole scenario is the reasoning on why Bible believes he had to shoot the victim. Listen to exactly what happened between the two.
He told police she approached him for a sexual encounter, but he began to feel, quote, suspicious after the act and shot and killed her. Bible confessed after police found surveillance video of him at the scene near the Lake Street light rail station.
Now, one source of a lot of confessions from criminals comes from jailhouse conversations. See, the state owns a jailhouse, and if you call into the jail, all your phone calls can be recorded. So a lot of confessions are obtained by the recordings of jailhouse phone calls. People like to confess on the phone for some reason. And that's exactly what this guy did. He confessed to his crimes over a jailhouse phone call.
Paperwork says while in jail, Bible told his dad he just murdered someone, and he felt sorry for killing the victim and knew he wasn't God, but he, quote, had to do it.
So here is Demarion Bible's booking information. Seems like case 1, charge 1, murder in the second degree. Case 1, charge 2, murder. And case 2, charge 1, aggravated robbery in the first degree. So he's facing, well, these are life sentences. And here you're talking about at least probably a minimum of 10 years, because aggravated generally means you have a pistol with you or a gun. So, and if they're saying he shot her, then you get these charges. So yeah, I think Bible is going to go away for a long time. But interestingly enough, I'm thinking he can argue heat of passion. In other words, the situation put him into an emotional state in which he did something that he wasn't supposed to do. Now, this is a difference between 20 years and a life sentence. If you get convicted on voluntary manslaughter, generally you're talking about 20 years. Murder in the second degree, you're talking about a life sentence.
Voluntary manslaughter means homicide that meets the purposeful or knowing levels of intent, but does not rise to the level of murder because it is mitigated by the fact that it was committed in the heat of passion. It occurs when the perpetrator is overwhelmed by emotion in the moment due to circumstances, loses his sense of judgment, and kills another person in this heat of passion. To get the benefit of this reduction from murder to manslaughter, the perpetrator must have been strongly provoked into the act by the victim, who created a situation that caused him to be distraught and overwhelmed to the extent that it is understandable, though not excusable, that his better judgment would be impaired.
So the question is, would this count as a situation that just makes you so crazy, so upset that you may harm someone else, even kill them? I think some guys would say yes, some guys would say no. That literally would be the question for the jury. There's also one last thing that I want to mention about the legal stuff is that I'm assuming this is going to be a felony murder case. In other words, if you have the underlying robbery and the person died in the commission of the robbery, which is the felony, then you have felony murder. Felony murder, for those of you who don't know, is if you kill someone or someone dies in the commission of a felony, you get charged with the murder. So if I'm committing a felony, somebody dies, I'm a murderer. That's the felony murder rule. Every state essentially has it. And the felony murder rule is crazy and amongst itself. Matter of fact, now I'm on this sidetrack. Check out this case involving the felony murder rule, where the guy literally was charged for murder and he was sleeping in his own bed. Insane.
Felony murder rule. Any death which occurs during the commission of a felony is first-degree murder, and all participants in that felony can be charged with and found guilty of murder. Translation, if you commit a felony, and while that felony is happening, someone gets killed, you can be found guilty of murder, whether or not you killed anyone. Here's an example. Let's say you let your friend borrow your car. You know he's going to use it to commit a robbery, but then he ends up killing someone. The felony murder rule says that you're equally guilty of the murder as your friend. This actually happened to a guy named Ryan Hawley. Instead of going to prison for an attempted robbery, he's serving life without the possibility of parole. Or what about this? You and your friend decide to commit a robbery. As you're running away, your friend is shot dead by the police. The felony murder rule says that you are going to prison for his murder, even though it was the cops who killed him. You guessed it. There's a kid named Tevin Lewis serving 52 years to life for this exact situation.
Now, the LGBTQ plus community has been advocating that this case be prosecuted as a hate crime because their argument is simple. She was killed because she was a trans woman.
Lawmakers, allies, and the LGBTQ plus community are calling the shooting a hate crime. Based on FBI data, anti-trans violence is on the rise across Minnesota and the country.
Now, I'm going to tell you, I think this is probably a crime of passion, because that's really the argument here. Is this murder where he intentionally killed her? I think you can make that argument. He pulled the gun out, he put it, you can really argue this was an intentional homicide, a second-degree homicide. But I also think you can really argue that this was a heat of passion. He believed he was having sex with a woman and found out that biologically this wasn't a woman. It wasn't what he expected. If I believe what he says is true, right? Because again, you have to kind of sell that to the jury too. Like he wasn't just trying to rob her because she was transgender. That's also a possibility. But based on the information I got now, I'm thinking, he thought that she was a female prostitute and maybe a payment had been exchanged and she did what she did. And this person realized that this was a physical male, not a woman, and overreacted. In that case, I think you could make this is a heat of passion manslaughter argument. And I know that a lot of people aren't going to like that. But let me give you another example. Let's say you had two twin brothers and one of those twin brothers had a girlfriend. So the twin calls over his brother's girlfriend and tells her to come over to the house, pretending to be his brother. They have sex. And then after the sexual act, he says, hey, I know you thought I was Charlie, but I'm not Charlie. That, I believe, could be considered an assault. And I think it could be considered because the person's not consenting to have sex with you, but your brother. You just could look alike. So that, I think, is a crime. And I think that's a very serious crime. It's a crime of blank, right? But the issue is that would she, when finding out, if she killed that guy, would you believe that was voluntary manslaughter? If she killed the twin, right? She's like, I thought you were, boom, and killed him. I think it would. I think that would be a crime of passion. And I think now if you just change the genders, now as we put into a heterosexual relationship where the person is believing they're having sex with one person, and that's actually heterosexual, the genders weren't changed. In this situation, I think you could also make that argument. But, I know that's not going to go down well. Matter of fact, here is that case of the twin. That's actually a real case of the twin, has sex with the brother's girlfriend. Here it is right here.
Officer Jared Rowerig, seen in this old Facebook photo, was arrested on charges of sexual assault and criminal impersonation after police say he posed as his twin brother to have sex with a woman. Details of the alleged assault, which happened back in July, were laid out in this affidavit. In it, the woman told Milford police she was called by a man who she thought was Joe Rowerig, Jared's twin brother, with whom she was romantically involved since March. She was invited over to their Milford home. One thing led to another, and the woman and the man she believed was Joe started to have sex. That's when she says she realized something was wrong. The affidavit says she realized that the male she was with did not have the tattoo on his left buttocks. Oops. The female victim said she immediately began to cry and asked him where his tattoo went. After the alleged assault, the victim says Jared drove her home, and she asked him, "When did you think I was going to find out? When I realized you didn't have a tattoo? When we didn't use Joe's car to drive home? Or
Oops.
When you didn't know how to get to my house because you've never been there?"
Oops.
Jared allegedly replied he hadn't thought that far and said, "I feel dumb, I feel stupid. You have every right to be upset." Jared
you think?
Rowerig is a police officer in Orange. The chief there says Rowerig has been put on administrative leave pending an internal investigation. He's still in his probationary period as an officer. Roehrig has been released on $50,000 bond. He'll be arraigned in Milford Superior Court on September 8th.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's a crazy case. That's a crazy case. You know how I feel about this other one. I think if what we're hearing is true, he was fooled, and I think that caused him to go crazy, and I think that's voluntary manslaughter. I don't think it's a hate crime because I don't think he was out there looking to kill people because of their gender identity. I think, this unfortunately was just a tragedy of situations. But again, if you disagree with me, let me know in the comment section. If you agree, let me know in the comment section, right? I don't have all the answers. I'm just asking questions. My name is Nate the Lawyer. I'm out of here. Peace.